I'm here this morning at the Lynn Brothers Racing facility called The Motors, and today's project is to swap out an existing Wyze doorbell cam, the original version, to a version 2. So if you're ready to get started, let's get going. Before we get started with the installation, I just kind of wanted to give a little background on this setup you see here. I installed this original Wyze doorbell cam, their original version, about 2 years ago. And as you can see, it's weathered quite a bit. It used to be white, and the good old Iowa weather for the last couple of years has taken its toll. Even though it's on the north side of the building, the UV rays have discolored the plastic, so it looks a little old. The other issue was that recently we've noticed that after a good rainstorm from the north, where water hits this, it tends to have water get in somewhere in the lens system such that it looks wet. I've tried wiping it off, and it's obvious it's not on the exterior, so somewhere there's a leak in the protection of the lens cover. But the good news was that as the weather warms up and dries the camera out, it goes away, so it still worked fine. But the discoloration and the fact that the version 2 Wyze doorbell cam has a better camera, I think it's 2K versus the 1080p this has, will just give them a better solution. The other thing I wanted to mention is the style of building. This basically is a typical 70s style warehouse type building. This used to be a car dealership. When the Lynn Brothers first started, they've revitalized it into almost a museum of their history of racing and the Lynn Brothers, and so it's worked out perfect for them. But in the case of this, there's not a lot of good places to install that, and the fact that you need power to run these doorbells. It wasn't a very good setup to just go plug and play with an existing doorbell, which it didn't have. So that's the setup we have here on the outside. Let's go take a look on the inside now. We've moved inside now, and I'm in what's called the shop area of the Lynn Brothers Racing facility called The Motors. And I just wanted to give you a quick view of what the structure is to show you what it took to get a powered doorbell to this door. So if you look real closely, and I'll just pan around here real quickly, this is building. You can see the orange I-beams that run up to the ceiling, and then a bunch of beams across the ceiling. The walls basically were the sheet metal you saw on the exterior, but as you look up here, you can see this tan material. Again, this was built in the 70s. That is the insulation that was mounted to the sheet metal on the exterior. You can see that up on the ceiling as well. And essentially this was just a warehouse back in the day for their shop operations. It's now turned into almost a museum, but it's still a functioning shop. Again, you can see the tan insulation throughout this building. So it acts as a big box, if you will, and for them it's turned into a great place for sharing their vintage racing history, as well as some of the car dealings they've done over the years. So back to the door again. To get a doorbell and mount it here, I needed to figure out how to get power over to this door. And as you can see, there's not any outlets on this wall. But as I looked around here, and we'll walk over here a little bit, if you look behind this I-beam, zoom in a little bit, you can see an outlet down here and a extension cord plugged in. Well, my plan was then to purchase powered transformer that is a plug-in transformer. It's not wired into anything. It's basically plugged in to an outlet, and then what you do is you run the transformer, connect it with doorbell wiring. The doorbell wiring will allow it to get the power out there. And in houses it's much more difficult because you have finished walls, but in this case this is just essentially plywood over the insulation. So my game plan was to use that outlet that we've got here on the back corner. And as I mentioned, you can see there's something plugged in there. We basically run the extension cord up to this cross beam here. And you might look real closely. I'll zoom in here. You can see the wire sticking up over that. I set the transformer up there, plugged into a power strip. and then ran the wiring behind the I-beam. And if you look closely, you can see it up behind this wood here, across the top of the door. And then I pulled the wood off the wall here to get the doorbell wiring down to where the opening was on the exterior of the building. So there you can see what it takes to do it in this particular motors. I was fortunate enough to be able to do this here, having that able to open it up and put it in there, and realizing in houses it's not that simple. So what you need to do in your house is look for maybe an adjacent closet to the door where there's a power outlet, or even go down into your basement. If you buy or borrow one of these 2-foot long drills that electricians use for running wiring in houses, you can either go through the closet wall to the opening in the frame of the door, or in our old house that my wife and I lived in, we went to the basement where there was a power outlet, and then I took that long pole from, actually I did it from the outside underneath the doorbell, drilled down through the wood footings of the frame of the house, broke through to the basement, and then just fed that wiring up to the doorbell. So every case is going to be different, but I just wanted you to understand how I got the wiring over to the wall where the doorbell is going to be when there was no power outlet. All right, so we've gone through and looked at the old design. Now let's go into the office, and I'm going to show you the parts that come with the new version 2 Wyze Doorbell Cam, just so you know and I know what we have, and determine if I got to run out to the Home Depot or Menards and pick up some extra pieces. We're in the office area here at the motors, and what I've done is I've laid out the parts that came in the package from Wyze, and pretty simple. As you see in the upper left there, we've got the doorbell. This is the mounting plate that goes on the wall, and this is the wedge that you put in that allows you to angle the doorbell, so in case you're near a wall, rather than getting half of your camera view, or maybe more than half of your camera view staring at a wall, you can cant the camera out and then see what's down the wall, plus things that are in front of the door as well. This device up here is for attaching to a doorbell chime. We don't have a doorbell chime here, so we won't have that, and we're just going to be dependent on the communication from this doorbell cam to the Wi-Fi system and then to the apps on our phone. And then there's this little packet of parts for mounting to the wall. These are attachments, wire attachment extenders, in case there's not enough room, length of the wires in the wall that we're going to connect the doorbell to. I believe there is, but we've got those just in case. And then the box. They have a quick start guide here in multiple languages, but in reality, if you download the Wyze app, and when we get ready to install this and connect it, it walks you through the steps on first setting up and mounting the doorbell camera to the wall, connecting the wires, and then connecting it to your account and the Wi-Fi system in the facility you're at. So there you have it. That's what we've got to work with. The next step now will be to go out and remove the old doorbell cam from the wall. So I'm back outside again, and the concept in removing this, there's basically 4 hooks that are holding this on. Basically, you've got to work the camera up so it disengages those hooks. So I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens here. Right now, see, it's on there real tight. Can't really do much, but if you push up from the bottom here, hear that snap, and then you pull that off, and there you go. There's the setup we've got that we have to disassemble. So the first thing I'm going to do now is remove the screws from the back of the doorbell, so we're not messing up with that. Do this and try to keep the camera visible to you. Set that one up like that, and then we'll take the other one here. Do the same thing, loosen that, and there we go. We've got the doorbell disconnected. The next thing we got to do is remove the screws from this, but the first thing I want to do is get some electrician's tape and tape off the ends of those wires. So I got a couple pieces of electrician's tape, and you don't have to do these anything fancy. They're just temporary to keep them from touching each other. So I'm basically just putting them on like that, wrapping them around, and that way when I pull the cover off, I'm not touching the wires. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this mounting cover. Pretty small screws here, so my luck I'll drop them. Hope I got that one. We'll take off the top one here. You can notice there was a little rubber gasket on the top and bottom to keep moisture from getting in the back, which is a good idea with water running down the side of the building. All right, so I got those two off, and then I'm just going to try to pop that off. There we go, and slip that over the wires. And now I've got two more screws that attach. This is the cant, or the angled piece that allows the camera to shoot out this way versus straight out and not see the wall that's over to the side. So I'm just going to remove these two screws here. And these came with the kit. Hopefully it's the hole size is the same for the new kit, and I can just slip them back into this hole. There's one. And then come up to the top here and get the top one. There we go, got that off. Almost dropped that one. And then we just take this off the wall here. Now I had put some tape on there in the back, just for the same reason of kind of acting as a gasket to the wall. So there you go. That's removed all the pieces off there, and this opening is now ready for the new doorbell. So I have the new pieces here, and here is that angled piece, and what we want to do is the camera to point out this way. So we'll mount this piece first, and then this piece then sets in air, and you can see the four connections like we had on the other camera, and it's got an arrow that says up, so we want that up. So I'm going to mount this piece first with the existing screws that I had that I took out of the wall. They look to be the same as what's in the new packet, so we'll just use them again. So we slip that over like that. Now I got to find the holes here. Hang that there for a second while I try to get my screw on the screwdriver. And we got a hole right up here and a hole right down there. See if I can line those up. I'll get that most of the way in, leave a little looseness so I can adjust it to make sure it's level. Get the other screw out here and see if we can line up the other hole down here. Barely just right in there, so it's kind of, I remember what came out as an angle, so it's probably going to go in at an angle. Yeah, that's close now. I want to make sure, step back here, and it looks like it's pretty level, so I'm going to tighten up the top one here. And then come back and do the bottom one here. There we go. We've got the first piece on. And then now we've got this piece. You see the up arrow. I want these little notches to be out, so I slip those over the wires again. Just pop it into the cover like that, and there we go. This also has a rubber grommet on the top of the bottom to keep moisture out. So now I'm going to go grab the camera, and we're going to connect the camera to the wires. So here's the camera, the Wyze camera. Here's the camera lens of the doorbell. Here's the doorbell button. And what we want to do now is connect these wires to these 2 points here. It doesn't make any difference which connection you have, just one to each of them, but you want to put the wires so they're wrapped around this way, so when you're tightening it down, they hold good. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to loosen these screws up a little bit so I can get the wires under them, but not take them all the way out. And then because we'll be tightening the screws this way, you want to make sure the wire comes around, and as the screw comes in, it's kind of trying to wrap it in even tighter. So we'll try this first one here. I'll loosen that up a little bit more. Put the wire underneath it. Get it nice and snug. And then loosen this one up a little bit more here. Do the same thing with this white one. Loosen that up a little more. See if I can pull it up a little bit more under there. There we go. Got that nice and tight. Now I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see that the doorbell is flashing off and on yellow. So that means we've got power to it, and I'm not going to put it on the connector yet. I want to make sure, in case I've got to fix anything when we try to install it on the app, that I can get to the wiring and do things. So I'm now going to go grab my iPad, and so I can capture the screen as I'm setting this up on the Wyze app. So now I have the Wyze app. I'm screen recording this so you can see how the doorbell reacts, but also how I set this up. So as you see on this display, these are other cameras that are at the motors. You notice the doorbell one is offline. That's the one I just removed. To install this, I go up to the upper right hand corner and click on the plus sign. And it says add, and we'll select device. And we click on cameras, and then we'll look for, let's see, the Wyze Doorbell, there it is, way at the bottom, Wyze Doorbell version 2. Click on that. And it says click here to skip installation tutorial. We're going to do that. And it says please confirm that your doorbell is now flashing orange, which you can see from the camera. So we'll hit next at the bottom. Now there's a button on this that I forgot about here, and I'm going to set my iPad down here. And let's see if we can turn that around. I have to move the camera a little bit. See at the top where it says setup, I've got to push that. And set the camera back down here again. So hopefully you heard that. It said ready to connect. So I'll pick up my iPad again, and there's a green line here at the bottom. I heard ready to connect, so we'll click on that. It says allow your location. I'm going to say yes. Okay. Allow while using the app. And it says select your network, the motors. Ready to connect. And I've got to add the password here, so and I got that in. Hit next. And so now it says to scan the QR code with the doorbell. So this pattern I'm going to hold in front of the doorbell here. QR code scanned. Please wait. So you heard that. The camera on the doorbell saw the scan. So I hit click check on the I heard QR scan and hit next. And as you can see on the iPad app, it's saying connecting. It could take a minute. The doorbell just said it was done. And we're going to say, we'll just leave it, we'll say doorbell cam. And hit next. Okay, so it says almost here. I'm just going to skip all this. It's telling about the camera. I'm just going to hit continue at the bottom. And because I have Cam Unlimited for the cameras at the motors, it's been added to it, so I hit OK. I'm going to go to the bottom here. I don't want to do the create or edit device group or the share the device at this time. I'll hit skip at the bottom. And hit finish again. So now if we look at the status light, it's blue. And it says the doorbell does not have a status solid blue light at the bottom. And now it's flashing orange to blue, so we can go ahead and hit next. And now it says to attach this to the wall plate. So I'll go ahead and feed those wires back into the wall. See if I can get this hooked up, pushed up, and then down. Oop. There we go. So we've got it attached to the wall plate, so I'm going to hit next. And it says you've successfully installed the doorbell version 2, so we'll hit finished. And shows you can zoom in by pinching the video with 2 fingers. These are slide over screens to show you how to use it, so I'll just slide across these. And then hit let's start at the top. So it's loading the live screen, and in a second hopefully you'll be able to see me standing here. Well, we had an error, so I'm going to hit try again, see what happened there. Whoops. There we go. Now you can see the angle that the camera is on. Because we put that wedge in there, instead of it looking straight out, it's pointing away from the wall over here. Let's see, point to the wall, I guess. The wall over there. And as you can see, I'll step out of the way here, and I'm going to zoom in using my fingers to show you the clarity that this has. Pretty good clarity. And as you can see, there's all sorts of different things. There's record, you can take a photo, the SD card, which I haven't put in yet, a siren, all sorts of things that you have here. But we'll zoom back out here. And so now you can see we've got that camera swapped out for the first version Wyze Door Cam to the version 2 camera, and didn't take much time to do that. I forgot one step to show you, and that is putting in the micro SD card. And so I came back out to do it, and then I realized that the camera wasn't attached correctly. So I took this off, and the step that I forgot, if you recall when we disassembled the previous version, this plate here is screwed in to the angled piece with these 2 real tiny screws. And I failed to put those in, so every time I'd push the camera in to connect it, it would fall off. So I've now reinstalled those 2 little screws here to hold this mounting plate to the angled plate, and it's much better. And I would have had to take this off anyway to show you how to install the micro SD card. And I'm not sure how easy it is to see this. Let me zoom in a little bit. But it says micro SD on the side of this, and I've got this little pick here to pull this little rubber piece off. There we go. You can see there's a little slot there that can go in. So let me grab the little micro SD card that I have here. I purchased this. This is only a 64 gigabyte one, and it comes with a little reader that's with it, but this is what we want to install on that. So I'm going to open this up. Again, it's small in my fingers here. I've got the piece here, if you can see that. I'm going to slide that in here. I'm not sure which way it goes, but the good news is it won't go in if it's not the right way. So I've got the metal sticking out. We'll try that first, and that looks like it's it. And you have to push that in, and now you can see it's installed in the side of the camera there. And so what that does is it records video clips. I got that pushed back in here. Let me put that camera back on the mount. So we push it on and then slide it down. Yeah, much better. Now it's attached on there. The micro SD card allows you to store video on that card. Even though I'm storing it to the cloud, now I've got an actual backup on the camera that I can use. So we got her all set up. I'm going to just take a step back here so you can see how that looks compared to what we had before. It's much more unobtrusive, and as you know, you watch that ring around the button, see it flashing there, and if I push it, we'll see what happens. And so what that'll do is it'll buzz my phone, which I'm recording with, and then I can answer that and talk to the person directly from my phone. So there you have it. Pretty simple process. Now granted, in this case, I had to take off an old camera and put this new one on, but if you're putting a new camera out for the first time, a Wyze Doorbell Cam version 2, just the second half of the video will do it for you. Basically put a couple holes in the wall to mount the bracket to, connect 2 wires to the back of the camera from your transformer, and then open up your app and install the new camera on your app. Pretty simple. I'll also go ahead and include a screen grab from this new camera as well as comparison to the old camera that I have in my files, just to show you a difference in the quality of the camera video from a 1080p to a 2K. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and if you got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the section on the YouTube video, and I try to get back to everybody with any questions they might have. And if you're interested in these types of videos on anything tech or even my drone flying, check out my YouTube channel, RSTechALO. So until next video, take care.